We're there, we're all here, ready to get going. Call tonight's planning zoning meeting to order. I would entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we have an agenda. And we'll move right into item number 3, approval of the meeting minutes from the November 28th, 2023 meeting. Anyone have any corrections?
I do.
Please.
On page 5 of 14, line 182, there's a word that says complaint. It should be compliance there. So if the applicant was not in compliance with the conditions.
Good catch.
And then on page 11, line 466, this isn't a big thing, but it says, she said something about believe that would ever happen. It should be would ever happen. I mean, it's not a huge thing, but as long as I caught it. Mr. Terry?
Page 4, line 148. About 2/3 of the way through, the word should be not rather than now. And that's all I have.
Keep going down the line. Gabe, any
No, sir.
changes?
Not
None
today.
here.
Mr. Ryder? All right. I also have none. That being said, I will motion to approve the minutes with the amendments from Glenn and Sharon.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Here, anyone to oppose? Hearing none. Minutes are approved. And we will go into item number 4A, where we have a public hearing and a variance request for a reduction of the front yard setback for a septic system replacement at 4310 Channel Lane Northeast. Aaron, whenever you're ready to go through.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Give me 1 second to get
Yep.
us all on the same page. There we go. All right. On November 16th, 2023, the city received an application from the owner of 4310 Channel Lane Northeast to allow for the replacement of a septic system, or the replacement of a non-compliant septic system at that address. The applicant had hired Lashinsky Services Incorporated to repair the existing system servicing the property. Lashinsky Services Incorporated discovered that the location of the existing system is the only location on the 0.47 acre parcel for the system due to the lot shape, building placement, and shoreland overlay setbacks. While creating a septic design to remove and replace the existing drain field, Lashinsky Services discovered that in fact the drain field was placed in the city's right-of-way. 4310 Channel Lane is located in the Oak Ridge Second Edition, which was originally approved and platted in July of 1962 by the Village of East Bethel Council. City staff have researched the property records and discovered that there was additional septic work completed in 1979 in which a drain field was added to the existing system. City staff is unable to locate any license agreements or variances issued to permit the existing placement, nor any discussion of council minutes from the years of 1962 and 1979. The applicant has owned the property since September of 1991 and has no knowledge of any previous variance or license and is looking to fix the system in order to put the house on the market for a future sale. If a variance is approved, a license and use agreement would be required to permit the use of the city right-of-way in order to reconstruct the drain field in its current location, as it is 30 feet into the right-of-way and straddling the front property line. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the front yard setback standard from 10 feet to 0 feet for the replacement of the septic drain field and septic tanks. The current system placement meets all other setback requirements from wells of the neighbor or the one serving the property. Consideration of a variance requires the following 3-factor test for practical difficulty. The first factor is a test of reasonableness, which means that the landowner would likely use the property in a practical way, but cannot do so under the rules of our ordinance. In this case, septic systems are required for a home to be considered habitable. The approval of a variance would allow for this property to continue to be used as a residence. The second factor is a test of uniqueness. The issue for a variance is due to circumstances unique to the property and not caused by the landowner. The uniqueness generally relates to the physical characteristics of a particular property. In this case, the property has limited space for a drain field due to the lot sizes created in the 1960s. The primary structure, the home, was placed approximately 36.5 feet from the ordinary high water level, 31.1 feet from the front lot line, and 10.5 feet from the side lot line. The detached garage on the property was placed 60 feet from the ordinary high water level, 22.7 feet from the front property line, and 18.4 feet from the side yard. Today's shoreland setbacks for structures is 75 feet from the ordinary high water level, 25 feet from a front lot line, 7 feet from a side yard line. Additionally, there is 30 feet between the primary residence and the detached garage. Current setback requirements for sewage treatment systems are 50 feet from the ordinary high water level, 50 feet from any well, 20 feet from any structure, and 10 feet from any property line. Tanks are required to be 10 feet from any structure and 10 feet from any property lines. The well serving this house is in the basement in the upper left-hand corner of the house towards the right-of-way. The third factor is that the variance would not alter essential character of the neighborhood. This factor is used to consider whether the resulting structure or improvement would be out of scale, out of place, or otherwise inconsistent with the surrounding area. In this case, the existing non-compliant sewage treatment system is already in the ground in this location and is being proposed to be replaced. It has existed in this location since at least 1979, when a permit was issued for its install. The Planning Commission is requested to hold a public hearing regarding the variance for the reduction of a front yard setback or the installation or replacement of a sewage treatment system at 4310 Channel Lane Northeast. Staff recommends Planning Commission consider making a recommendation of approval to the City Council under the attached resolution granting a variance to the reduction of the standard allowing for the installation of a replacement system and the front yard setback from 10 feet to 0 feet at 4310 Channel Lane Northeast with the following conditions. A license and use agreement between the property owner and the City of East Bethel must be obtained and executed prior to the issuance of a septic replacement permit.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, this is a public hearing. We'll go ahead and open it at this time. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Aaron, you're not a resident.
I figured I'd give you this just in case.
Yeah.
Do you want to call them out maybe and see if they...
Certainly. Barb, do you want to speak on this? Okay. All right, I believe we have the developer for the next item, Mr. Hennon. Did you want to speak on this at all? Sue? No? All right, thank you. All right. Then at this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And I would entertain either a motion or motion for discussion.
Make a motion to approve the septic variance at 4310 Channel Lane Northeast.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Anyone wish to bring up any questions?
I'm curious about the well located inside the house? I don't remember seeing that come up before.
I was
I'll-
curious about that as
I'll
well.
pull up a survey that was done relatively recently. I asked the applicant to have a survey done just so we could have exact information as to where things are located on the property. So the well is located in the basement right here.
I know in a previous home I owned in East Bethel, in the lower basement area was the original well. And obviously, if it was still operational at the time, that would have been usable in a crawl space area. So sometimes they were punched inside to prevent freezing, things of that nature.
We see it occasionally.
So that wouldn't prevent the sale, that wouldn't be out of compliance to prevent the sale of the house.
Lishinsky has a letter in here saying that it would need to be sealed prior to construction. Is that
Yeah, the well will need to be moved, but
okay?
as long as the applicant still remains in the home and it's not on the market, that could be a condition of sale that the well will be taken care of after the fact. Or she could commission and hire somebody to do it, but they're gonna need to know where the septic system's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw on there that the well was proposed to go behind the house, towards the lake.
And the city doesn't regulate wells, that's the Department of Health, so we don't know if a permit comes in, if the well has been actually already put in, or this is just the information I have from the most recent survey.
And it sounds like we have the property owner here. If you guys want me, I can have her come up and she can address any questions that you might have directly for her if you'd like.
I just wanted to be sure that improving this doesn't impact, or having the well in the basement doesn't impact or have anything to do with what we are doing regarding the septic system.
Well, as you guys have pointed out there, Lishinsky does require that that well inside be sealed and a new one be drilled, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna judge from the property owner nodding her head in agreement that sounds like something that's gonna be amenable, so.
Right.
Can you go to the map with the proposed placement of the new septic?
Yes. Might be hard to get at the right scale here for us to.
There we go.
So when I was looking at this and considering the impact on the neighbors, like where the perceived lot line was, kind of something I was considered. Like I was looking at the satellite views and where the mow strips are, and you know, I'm guessing Sue didn't know where those lots were, or that the boundary was when she purchased. So, you know, I think that this was a really creative way to get another house in the neighborhood, but at no fault of the homeowner. I think this is a really big improvement. It moves the septic away from the lake and gets a new septic. So I think that there's a lot of positives to this variance.
Yeah, the existing drain field is in this spot already.
Yeah.
The
Oh.
septic's designer and builder's gonna actually remediate it, take it out of there and then replace it. That's the only spot it can go.
Yeah. This
mean,
is more of an exercise in becoming compliant where it wasn't previous to follow standards. And to piggyback on your statement though, from the time in the 60s to when it was upgraded again at some point in the future from when it was originally designed. As we know, technology changes, systems change. This is part of what happens.
Well, and the consequence of not approving it at
Greater.
city council level would be that they'd have to have a holding tank, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that is the other ultimate option, is that a drain field be taken out of the system, and holding tanks is really the only other option. That would be a choice that the current property owner would have and have to disclose that, I would assume, to a potential buyer, and that's their obligation, I guess, or their choice.
Any other comments or discussion? Good call for vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Variance granted.
Well, it'll go to the planning
Go to the
commission.
planning-
That's a
sorry.
recommendation. or
Recommended
to the
from
council,
us to the
sorry.
council, sorry.
Yep.
It's been
Sorry.
a long day. And
Shouldn't
this will
take
be
up-
at the February something meeting.
Let me pull up the date here. Let's
Thank
get
you.
the exact date.
Looks like the 12th.
12th.
Thank you, February 12th for final approval. Thank you for your time. All right, the next item we have, item 4B, which will also be a public hearing, a preliminary plat for Hidden Prairie TH construction of Anoka For those not in attendance, we did have an amendment to the preliminary plat concept, or to the preliminary plat, bringing in covenants to the neighborhood.
It's an addendum to
Or
the
addendum.
information.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Appreciate the clarification. All right. And whenever you're
You bet.
ready on that item.
All right, on July 25th, 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed a concept plan for a revised development for a previously approved preliminary plat for the Hidden Pines Rural Residential Subdivision. The developer acquired additional adjacent land and incorporated the additional acreage into a revised plan. A public hearing was held and a recommendation of approval was forwarded to the City Council on August 14th of 2023. The City Council subsequently approved the concept plan. On January 5th, 2024, a preliminary plat application and supporting materials were delivered to City Hall. The plat is consistent with the approved concept plan. It consists of 17 buildable, single-family, rural residential lots. Within the rural residential zoning district, the minimum lot size requirement is 2 acres, with a density not to exceed 1 unit per 2.5 acres. All lots within the proposed now Hidden Prairie subdivision meet the 2-acre minimum lot size, and the 17 units fall below density requirements. Additionally, each lot meets the required minimum 200-foot width at the right-of-way and setback line. In review streets, the development will be accessed off of East Bethel Boulevard, County 15. Therefore, Anoka County Highway Department is required to review the proposed plan. They submitted a comment letter on January 9th of 2024 with the comments. The developer will be required to satisfactorily address all comments prior to any grading activities on the site. The internal street will be required to be constructed to city standards with no temporary cul-de-sacs permitted. Public Works has reviewed and their comments were addressed previously in the preliminary plat and have provided no new comments. The Parks Commission, the new concept plan was placed on the August 8th, 2023 Parks Commission meeting, and they recommended park dedication fees in lieu of land. The Parks plan for the city of East Bethel does not support a park in this area of the city. The city engineer was sent the preliminary plat for review on January 5th, 2024, and although those comments have not been received from the city engineer, the developer was required to satisfy any of the concept plan comments before submitting a preliminary plat. Therefore, any comment by the city engineer will be required to be satisfied prior to the application of a final plat. Staff is requesting that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing, discuss and consider recommending approval of this preliminary plat known as Hidden Prairie with the conditions set forth in the attached resolution to the City Council. And I can answer any questions. The developer is here as well if you have any questions for him.
Okay, fantastic. Again, as this is going to require a public hearing, I will open that in just a moment. For those who haven't been through that process, again, typically we'll try to have residents come up and speak. We'll wait to have the developer up at the end to maybe address any concerns that they may have. If there's enough compelling, we'll bring residents back up if they want to respond to those after gaining new information, and then we'll close it at that time. And then we'll go to discussion, and again, we may bring the developer back up if necessary. Outside of that, at this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please step to the podium. State your name and address clearly for the record.
I'll write the questions that we
Thank
can.
you so much, I appreciate it.
I'm Barb Mace, 2839 196th Avenue Northeast. This land development abuts my land, and I just basically have a question. At the time that this was set out and with the additional buying of land, did this all have to be resurveyed again? Because I know that when we initially bought that land, we had survey markers for where the property lines are, which are gone, and I've not seen any other ones. So that would be my question to either you guys or the developer, whoever.
I'll defer to the developer as it'd be his land, so, but
thanks.
we'll be sure to address that. Thank you, Barb.
My name is Jordan Carlin. Address is 19734 East Bethel Boulevard. I own the 10 acres that butts up to the development, and the one concern I have is my septic system. It looks like the road goes over it. It's pretty close. My septic design says it is 10 feet away. I still have all the paperwork for that, but this shows it to be a little bit closer. So if that is the case, who is liable for moving that septic? And then also, that road is running down my property line. It looks like it impedes my property. So is it road, ditch, my property? Or road, property line, ditch?
We'll be sure to address that.
That's all I
Thank
have.
you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak before we call the developer up? Mr. Henner? Thank you so much.
Name's Tony Hennon, TH Construction, 617 East Main Street, Anoka.
Great. Thank you for being here tonight. If you could please help address some of the questions that came up. The first one that was in regards to property being surveyed.
Yes, they did go do some surveying out there. There will, however, surveyors will be out there a dozen more times. So all the corners, everything in the back of the lots, each individual lot, back corners will be actually marked. So there's where all the other lots are down on your end there. You'll see where the back two corners of every lot will be. So that will be all done.
All right. Thank you for that. And then Jordan's question concerning the road over the septic system and how close the road is to the property line.
So we were gonna go out, was trying to get a hold of them to go out there and actually probe I didn't wanna go on his property without to probe it. Well, now it froze. So now I can't check and see, we were gonna see where the rock bed was. And if that septic guy that put it in, the way I understand it, if he put it in the wrong spot into that 10 feet, he's obligated to move it. Well, I'll have to work with Jordan and we'll just kind of work something out. Typically then getting on the property line, typically the property line ditch, because there's a 33-foot road easement there. So the road goes from the center road to the property line. So the ditch would be like property line ditch, but you know, that's kind of all in the one. So we might have to encroach a little bit when we're cleaning up the side there. So I was still gonna talk to you about it, but the first time I got to talk to him was today, like 10 minutes ago or half an hour before I got here, so.
Okay. And you guys will be able to exchange and
Yeah,
contact
we're gonna work,
information.
we'll talk after this and we'll get everything figured out, but.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just for clarification, the right-of-way is wider than the actual road, so there's about 15 feet between the road and probably the property line.
yes, in the property line, yes, roughly in there, because the roads are really only about 30-some feet wide. So there's that ditch that'll be in there too, so, yep.
Cool.
Okay. And you don't foresee any issues coming up with that? That wouldn't be,
I don't,
that
I
wouldn't be
just,
resolvable?
we just seen this, where the property line was and that septic was, so that's been kind of an issue. Aaron knows, we've been kind of looking at that. And we were gonna go and probe it, but like I said, I didn't wanna go on there without talking to him, so now it's 2 feet of frozen ground, so
No,
now
sure.
we're gonna have to just
Well,
kind of wait till spring.
Wait till Friday, it'll be 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it don't thaw,
I-
it freezes a
sorry,
lot quicker.
there
than
was
it
satire in
thaws
that,
out.
sorry.
Yeah, no, we'll do what we gotta do. but-
So you're gonna dig a ditch in the easement, or in the right-of-way, or
Well,
is it just gonna be?
the road actually has ditches on both sides all the way back.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's the drainage and stuff, and then there's ponding and stuff, you know, we have to have that all calculated by the engineers, and that's already been done, the preliminary stuff. If you see all these pads and stuff they have, and you'll see where the water and stuff is supposed to go, there's drainage, utility easements, all that's engineered. There's road axes, those dark parts, hashed parts are where all the road access is to maintain for the city trucks or whoever, if they gotta go in there. They never do, but those are like easements and stuff on there too, recorded on the plat.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions from the developer while we have them?
Do you mind if I ask Jordan, maybe you could come up and just, I'd just like to know if you're feeling comfortable about this.
Would you like me to come up there?
Yeah.
Oh.
if
Are you
wouldn't
good with
mind.
me then?
Yep, I think we're great at the moment.
I mean, do you think that this could be worked out?
I think it can be worked out, yes. This is, I should have done more due diligence and whatnot, so this is my first knowledge of it. Just got things in the mail, so proceeding with the process, so I do have concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And so all this drainage on the other side of the street, will it come to my property? Is there anything that'll feed that?
I can answer that question if you'd like, or if you want
Aaron?
to wait.
Yeah. no,
So,
please.
design standards nowadays obligate the landowner for all of the water drainage on that site to remain or drain on their own site and not off-site. Unless there's a joint collection pond somewhere that's agreed on a larger parcel of property, that would have to be documented. All the regulations now say that that water has to remain on that site.
Okay. So yes, I do feel comfortable with working with them. I just
Okay.
want to make sure I will not be held liable, 'cause it was installed in 2019, and it was obviously accepted by here, or everything was taken accounted for, so.
Yep.
So I want to make sure moving forward that it will not be on me.
To the best of our knowledge, sounds like it may not be, or back to the septic company.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
I would just add that if the planning commission reiterates the same concern, we could list that as a condition on the resolution that a satisfactory conclusion for that septic system be identified or taken care of prior to releasing of materials, or we could come up with some language if you guys choose to. If you're comfortable with Jordan being comfortable, then we don't need to include that, but
I would definitely like to see that, some wording in there, and you're actually offering to do that for us?
Well,
That's nice.
before we go too further into discussion, anyone else wishing to speak in the public hearing before we close it? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public forum at this time. Motion for approval, denial, or discussion would be entertained at this time.
I'll make a motion to open discussion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion and a second.
As such, how far would we want to go with that? Because I'm in agreement, you know, this is not one of those things I'd like to see kicked down the road and, oh yeah, we'll figure it out, especially when, you know, Jordan may be actually held liable. Is there something contractually we can, you know, recommend, or?
I would say whatever it is, that we want to make sure we keep it simple.
Yeah, right?
So, but it sounds like Aaron may have a good idea on how.
He's writing it already.
So, I foresee, wouldn't see that being an issue, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, putting in that it's satisfied with the landowner to some degree regarding the septic.
Aaron, is this the first time you're hearing about this?
no, I was anticipating we would see this from the city engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't received his comment letter yet, so.
Which again would have to be satisfied
Those would have to
regardless
be
whether we
satisfied.
put this in or not.
Right.
But as a catch-all, if you want to make sure that you include it, that's certainly, and if it's taken care of and the city engineer also comments on it, then it gets taken care of. And
Sounds good, thank you. Any other discussion?
Could we just make a recommendation that the city engineer has to have comments to it before?
I would say make that part of a motion if one was gonna make a motion. If there is a motion to be had. At this point, we're just open for discussion.
Where, I see you writing furiously. Are you making a conditional statement right now?
I am, for you to
Can we just
consider.
give you a minute or
Yep.
two?
Yep.
Other than that, any other concerns regarding the preliminary plat?
The 2 acres that were added, or however many additional acres, where is that on this?
It's all the back
The
lots
west
there.
side.
I'm not sure if you were here for that when they came back before us. When
Yeah.
they had added that was
Okay.
August? No. I forget which month that was that they were back here.
Yeah,
But yeah, the land had became available and they were able to purchase it.
Okay.
And they added in those lots. Which came with some redesign. And again, as we stated earlier, there was an amendment that was put in front of you tonight that's just adding in some covenants as allowable for some design standards and.
Right.
Actually, can we reopen the public comment? Because I'd like to hear about what the purpose of that was.
If you were looking for discussion from the developer, we would not need to open public hearing. We can just ask him to come back up here. Just for comment's sake, the reason we traditionally have them come up during the public hearing is if a lot of times if there's contentious or not, if there's gonna be back and forth, instead of opening, reclosing, we just try to have that done all at once, but if we've already closed it, we can just have him come up and address any questions we might have. So, but Mr. Hennon, if you have another moment, we would greatly appreciate it. Come on. No. Yes,
No.
please. No. Don't re-recognize you. Come on in, have a seat, be welcome.
Could you just give a brief summary of the covenants that you want to add?
Okay, so the covenants, like Aaron said before, if I do sell a lot, I just wanna be covered for all the buyers that are in the neighborhood. So as far as the covenants go, we just put size restrictions on houses. I just wanna have a, really nice neighborhood. A lot of the ordinance are, more strict, or at least as strict, I don't want junk cars sitting in there. That even addresses like somebody's got a barking dog, the dog barks for, constantly. It's just, all that is kind of to cover the homeowners in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then one more thing I was gonna say about that septic. So if everybody did their job and the septic is 10 feet off the property line, we're not gonna have any issue, it'll be fine. Everything will work out, the ditch and everything will work fine. It's if somebody didn't do their job and check it out and make sure it is where it was supposed to be,
Yeah.
then it's gonna be an issue.
Yeah,
But-
your plan is designed based on having that bed already at 10
Well,
feet.
your guys' ordinance says 10 feet off the property line, so if that's 10 feet off the property line, then we got no issues with anybody, nobody will have any issues.
Yep.
I'm just saying, if that's installer went there and he just said, oh, it works good here, and I'm just gonna throw the rock over that way, that could be an issue.
Certainly.
But as far as we're going at it as if it's gonna be okay.
Yep. Moving forward as if it was done correctly, which would be the
Yep,
safe assumption.
yep. And it's the covenants, like I said, I'm just protecting homeowners' rights and stuff in there. So.
Yep, should you sell
We
a
built
lot
a
to
nice
another
house and little more higher, expensive stuff, so I wanted to maintain that through that neighborhood, so,
Certainly.
okay?
Do you
Thank you.
have kind of a price range of your houses?
Well, with this market, they've been going like this, but 600 is kind of the average. So 600,000 with the lot, pretty much, but could be some in there for 7 and plus.
Yep.
So,
All
there
gonna
might be some, maybe, the cheapest ones we do is probably 5 to 550 is about the lowest price.
Are they all similar in design, or are they?
Well, I try
just
to change them
somewhat
up.
custom? Okay, great.
I do too, because I draw and design. I custom design every house. So I try to make them all look a little different, so pretty much every house in there will look a little bit different, just like my other Prairie Hills one I'm doing. I'm trying to
Wonderful.
change them all up, every one we do, so. It'll be a nice neighborhood, try to do a good job, so,
Oh, great.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Yeah,
other
thank
questions while we have them up here? No? All right, I think you released it. Thank you.
Call me back if you need-
Yep, certainly. Any further discussion? Any motions to be made?
How's it going, Aaron?
Good, I can, I have a condition that says a satisfactory conclusion to the neighboring septic drain field location must be established prior to the release of a final plat. That way, if we make a determination that it is 10 feet and the drawing shows that that is the case, if the septic designer and installer installed it in the wrong spot and they are willing to move it, then that would be a satisfactory conclusion. If it is found to be in a place and that it shouldn't be, and Mr. Hennon wants to contribute to the moving, and Jason is satisfied with the amount, and there could be many ways to come to a conclusion on this one, but a satisfactory conclusion to the septic location needs to be established before we would release the final plat.
Is there I'd entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the resolution with the conditions added.
Per Aaron's earlier statement.
Per Aaron's earlier statement, yes.
We have a motion, is there a second? I'll second the motion.
I just have a question about that. Would it be prudent to say is conclusion satisfactory to both parties, or just leave it at satisfactory conclusion?
Would we adjudicate that? Would that be something that?
We would not. This is actually probably a civil matter that would have to take place if Mr. Hennon can prove that the septic installer put it in the wrong spot and not by city ordinance. The city might have to step in and get involved because then the placement was not placed properly. Were there inspections done? Like there could be a lot of spider webs to this this one.
Did you get the answer you were looking for?
I'm just wondering if that matters in terms of the language.
Satisfactory by all parties? Is it already
By
assumed in
concerned
that?
parties or whatever.
If someone has to eat it, not everybody's getting satisfied.
Right. I mean, I could say to both landowners.
I think,
And don't worry about the city, right?
Yeah.
I won't express what I'm worried about, but that's okay. No, I think we can come to a conclusion.
I thi-
I feel comfortable with the way it's already currently read, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's not a up or down roadblock for my vote.
Mhm.
I just wanted to clarify if that mattered or not.
Yeah, I actually had kind of the same thought, but I think it's fine too.
It does appear that Jason has plenty of territory out there, so if that thing did need to be moved, I'm fairly certain that that wouldn't be too big of a concern, but I haven't specifically looked at his parcel of property.
I'm content with it as it's been read.
Mr. Ryder, any comments?
I think, we're preparing for like a 1%
Yep.
issue,
Yep.
so I guess, I'm okay with it.
Well, sounds like we're ready to call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Preliminary plat recommended with extra language from Aaron. This will go
Additional
before-
condition.
Conditional condition, thank you. Go before city council also on February 12th? Is that correct?
Correct.
Best of luck. Thank you for bringing your concerns. All right. Well, I think now with all parties present. And when Aaron, you are ready, we will move on to item 5,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
which will be the sale of city-owned parcel for review.
Get this queued to the right spot here for your information. Maybe this is a better, not necessarily a better view, I guess, but as you can see, it's
Thank you, Barb.
land is
Thank you.
paralleling Coon Lake down there, so. Diana and Jim Sanger request the city council consider the sale of a portion of a city-owned parcel, this long, narrow red strip here, which is a 50-foot wide strip running between Longfellow Drive and East Bethel Ham Lake corporate city limits down here at the bottom. You can see the shaded area, that's the city limit line. This property borders the western acreage of the Carlos Avery Nursery and is attachment number 1 of your packet. The city-owned parcel is 2.99 acres and has a current estimated taxable market value of $12,600. The purchasers are primarily interested in the north 740 feet by 50-foot wide portion, or 0.82 acres, that adjoins their parcel as exhibited in attachment number 2. Both parcels are located in the Coon Lake Residential Zoning District. This property was tax forfeit acquisition by the city of East Bethel in 1974. It was acquired as a non-conservation for authorized public use to be used exclusively for parks according to state statute cited in your packet. Property conveyed under this conditional use deed, regardless of when it was executed, is released from the use restriction and rules of reversion 30 years from the date of the deed or acknowledgement or city acquisition. As this property has exceeded the 30-year requirement for restriction on sale, it can be sold by the city with no encumbrances related to the tax forfeit acquisition. The majority of the city property is either classified as wetland or is located in a 100-year floodplain with poor soils throughout the entire parcel. The entire parcel is considered unbuildable due to its dimensions. It's 50 feet wide by 2,600 feet long. The soil, wetlands, and floodplain conditions are also contributing factors. Statutory cities have the power to sell land or buildings they no longer need to anyone other than public officials and certain city employees. Generally, a city does not need permission from the public in order to sell such land. In some instances, a city may need to notify people or get approval from prior to the sale. Sale of land are usually not required to use a competitive bidding process. During a closed session meeting on November 27th of 2023, the East Bethel City Council authorized the sale of this portion of land. The East Bethel City Attorney has advised that under Minnesota State Statute Section 462.356 Subdivision 2, city real estate should not be purchased and or sold until the Planning Commission has reviewed the proposed purchase or sale and found that it complies with the city's comprehensive plan. At the close of the sale, the purchasers would be required to immediately, or as soon as practically possible, combine the 50-foot wide by 740-foot length portion with their adjacent parcel, since it's smaller than the minimum lot area identified in our zoning code. The Planning Commission is requested to review the proposed sale and determine if its sale for a residential purpose is in alignment with the comprehensive plan for the Coon Lake Residential Zoning District. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I may answer outside of the closed session.
And since this is for review, no motion is necessary, but
That
may
is
need a
correct.
recommendation.
Just a recommendation that in your opinion, the use that, the adjacent land use and the potential buyer's intended use is a match with the zoning district and part of or compliance with the comprehensive plan.
Do you have a way to expand the context? Because I'm not familiar with where this is.
Yeah, sure.
From this picture
Let me
anyway.
bring up a,
If you consider the Coon Lake Beach area, the restaurant, the gas station,
Right.
if you were to follow the main road there all the way down toward the end, like you were headed to the lake, hang a left, go south,
So,
and then it would just be that strip of land that continues to go, or if you're familiar from the lake side, be the beach area, or the sandbar, as some call it. This would be the land
oh, okay,
just
no,
across the street
so
from there.
Smokies is right here,
right.
the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna go down
Lincoln to Cedar.
and right in here.
Okay. Great.
So the owners own the house across the street. They also own this lot. Their family member owns these 3 parcels right here. So they are looking at purchasing a portion here and will combine it with their lot here for potential future building of a detached accessory structure, which they'll have to come in for a variance for because there's not a primary residence on that lot. They do have a lot of soil work to do prior to being able to build, but as you will see, I'll turn on the zoning layers, you'll see that they're both in the same zone.
And this wouldn't be, I mean, and an accessory structure wouldn't be too uncommon from what we've seen with some other lots around Coon Lake.
That is
where some will
common.
have a home on the lake side and then land on or another property on the other side of the road.
So it's the purple strip here that you're seeing on the right. They own these 2 in the purple on the left side of it, and they also own the residence right here. Brother-in-law or brother owns these 3 right here.
So the split's at the very bottom of that very last section?
Yeah, it's gonna, I believe it's gonna run across right here. So they'll have this strip running up here. The thought is someday maybe doing a land swap with the brothers so that they both get perfectly even rectangular spaces. That's a private deal that the city has no control over, so.
So this is just to make sure that they have proper setbacks for the size of the accessory structure, basically?
Obviously, if they acquire more territory, they gain a little bit more square footage based on our zoning code for a detached accessory structure.
Might
So,
bring 'em
but
from-
yes, also it can set back a little farther and, yes.
Yeah, because I think right now they'd only be allowed 480 or the 960.
It's gonna be small.
Yeah, it'd be the 480, so by acquiring this, they'd be able to go up to the 960 or greater for size of accessory structure, which, let's be real, would be more reasonable. I think, what, 2.5 car
pontoon.
garage, 750.
Well, and there's no practical use to the city, really, is there?
Nope, that's not buildable. I don't know what you could put on a 50-foot wide stretch. We've got nothing in our zoning code that can be built that small.
So
So,
one really good slip and slide.
so just, all I conceivably need is a thumbs up that you agree that their intended use meets the zoning code, and if combined with their current use, is all in compliance with the shoreland overlay, basically, or the shoreland district.
Yeah, it was thumbs up too.
I would make a recommendation that I don't foresee any issues.
Yeah,
Here's
there
my
you go.
thumbs up.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval.
Give me a second to
Motion,
write
is
that
there a
down.
second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for a recommendation for approval. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none.
Who was the second?
It was Gabe.
Gabe.
Real.
Got it. Thank you for that. Sometimes I understand that those sales can all be done in terms of a development if it needs to come in as a concept plan, and concept plan approval happens while the sale is happening underneath, that also satisfies the approval portion of the state statute. I'd never heard of that before, so that was a new adventure for me.
Just for my own knowledge, is there any buildable land in that area that's owned by the city?
In this area owned by the city, potentially. It's gonna take some soil work to determine if it is actually buildable or not. We get kind of questions quite regularly on city-owned parcels, and as you can see, it took a little bit of homework to reach back out to the county to find out when we got that, how we got it, what its intended use was, reaching out to the state to determine their interest, and there is homework to do on top of just knowing that it's city-owned, so depending on how it was acquired.
Yeah, having been back there, it is quite marshy
Right.
through a lot of that.
Well, it's city-owned land, and, you know, that beach area right there is where all the boaters go hang out, and I was just wondering if there's a place where the city could, you know, enact a park and have some bathrooms so people aren't going in the lake. I know there's always been interest in that, and just a thought.
It's probably a project for another day.
Yeah, you gotta get pretty, you have to get pretty far in from what I know of that area, depending on the year. Don't get me wrong, there's times you can go out there and it seems fine, and then there's other years where the lake levels up and
We'd certainly
pretty
do a
saturated.
topographical map and find the highest spots of the area, and that would be your best spot to go do some soil testing to see if it's even possible, but
Well, who would start that? Would the planning commission start that recommendation, or the parks commission?
I'd go
or-
with parks. If you're proposing a park, I would check what the parks plan looks like to see if there's any proposal of a park in that area. I know they just invested money in the Coon Lake Beach Park and redid all of that, so I don't know how much money would be set aside, but certainly something your fellow Parks Commission members might be interested in taking a look at. I mean, all ideas are possible at this point, I would assume.
Sure. I mean, I don't mean to step on their toes. I guess the question was, like, this is city-owned land and the planned use of it. And so I guess that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that most of the city-owned land is, the reason the city still owns it is because there's not much that can be done with it. but
Yeah.
I've not explored it and beyond the last couple of requests that we've had, so.
Okay, good question. All right, I think we're ready to move on. Item 6, we've got interview of candidates to fill the open planning commission positions.
All right, the resignations of Commissioner Allensbach and Plaisance have created 2 openings on the Planning Commission. The term of Commissioner Allensbach was to expire on January 31st of 2024, and the term for Commissioner Plaisance expires on January 31st of 2025. City staff advertised the opening and received 3 letters of interest and resumes as were requested. The resumes and interview questions were distributed to you tonight, prior to tonight's meeting. The commission is requested to interview the 3 applicants and make a recommendation to the city council to fill the vacant seats, in which terms expire on January 31st of 2025 and January 31st of 2027. Looks like all 3 applicants are here. I did list them in the order in which I received their applications. Doesn't mean you have to call them in that order. And you let me know if you want to sequester the other 2 that are not being interviewed at the time.
Yes.
We can make accommodations.
I think we can go in order that you have here, and I would prefer to sequester.
Perfect.
As we've done in the past.
Very good.
But just so everybody knows what the plan is here, I'll go ahead and start with the first question. I'm just gonna move to my left, and we'll just go around the horn here asking the questions, so everybody getting an opportunity. We'll just go in the same order for all 3 candidates.
So Mr. Downey and Mr. Jorgensen, I'll open the conference room across the hall for you and hang out there. We'll come get you when it's your turn. Or feel free to use the restroom or your car or wherever you want to go.
Steve, if you'd like to approach the podium while Aaron gets settled back in, we'll get started.
They've properly been placed.
Thank you.
Seclusion.
Good, good.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening, Mr. Voss. Thank you for your application. We have a few questions for you tonight. Again, as you heard, we'll go around the horn here, and everybody get an opportunity to ask some questions.
Yeah.
Take notes from there. First and foremost, why are you interested in becoming a commission member of East Bethel, a planning commission member for East Bethel?
I say probably the strongest is just the thinking back to the 11 years I served on the commission, which was 20 years ago now, almost. Sorry, Glenn, it's been a while. Even with my time on council, I paid attention to what planning was doing, and the work that this commission does is more, grassroots is right. I mean, you're dealing right with the applicants and dealing with the residents that have the issues, and that's the part of the planning commission that I miss, and just the discussion on how we resolve these issues. So. Obviously, we did that at council as well, but again, at planning commission, it's just more of the base level discussions. And the fact that, obviously, I've been watching the city grow and change over the 30 years I've been involved. And I still find myself in the year that I've been away from council, still watching meetings, still trying to keep up with what's going on. And when the openings on planning commission came up, it was something to fill that need, I think, for me, is to get back involved and be involved in the community on a more active basis.
Great, thank you. Chair?
Alrighty. So what strengths and abilities would you bring to the planning commission?
Well, I think the obvious is the experience, but I've been a resident for over 30 years. In pretty much the first year I moved here, I joined the Planning and Zoning Commission at that time. And the 11 years on there, and seeing how things happen. You know, so there's, even though it's 20 years ago, I think a lot of this process is still the same. Although our sketch plans back there were really sketch plans on backs of napkins and stuff. Honestly, it's kind of the level of sophistication we were back then. But you know, that part of the city has changed in terms of how we do things. But you know, the city itself, I think, hasn't changed much. I think we've kept the feel of the community. At least in the 30 years I've been here, it still feels the same. And so having that experience, and obviously having an experience on council and seeing how things get done, you know, I think that'll be an asset. And then I think just the times that when things come up of history lessons of what's been done in the past, you know, I hate the term, but it's, you know, the institutional knowledge of knowing how things have been done in the past. Doesn't necessarily mean how things are done in the future, but at least we know how things got to this point and how things were developed back then. You know, in the times I've been involved between planning and zoning and city council, I was involved with the comprehensive plan 3 times. Every 10 years we have to do it. It'll be coming up again in a few years. We'll have to start talking about that again. And so just to see that process and see how that process is done, see how the community's involved, that's kind of what I look at. So.
As a planning commission member, what do you believe your role is as representative of the city?
I'm sorry, Glenn, can you speak up a little bit?
As a planning commission member, what do you believe your role is as representative of the city?
It's to me, the role of the advisory commissions is just that, to be that advisory commission. It's, you know, it's not I'm sorry, I'm restating this. We want commissioners to have independent voice and provide that, you know, the voice. When debate happens, you know, with differing viewpoints, that usually most often comes back with a better decision because that discussion was put through. So to me, that's the role. It's at times when council comes to planning and asks for some direction on something, you know, that's a little more defined. But I think for the most part, it's advisory commission. So.
This is kind of fun being in this position, getting to ask you questions. I feel like, yeah, we talked about this a couple years back. What is your vision for the Highway 65 corridor?
Well, I think in terms of my vision, I think it's important as a community vision. You know, the comprehensive plan. The last round of the comprehensive plan was fairly consistent with the previous comprehensive plan in terms of the development, and obviously because the utilities of sewer and water are in this area, and that's going to you know, drive everything in that area. I think when that was put forward almost over 20 years ago, it was all driven by the need and desire for retail services and other services for a city, and that long discussion is ended up in that. So in terms of how it ends up, I believe it's just going to be a mix of retail and service type commercial, but then with the higher density housing that is already started to come in. So in terms of the vision, I think the basis comes back down to what the cornerstone of the comprehensive plan has been, and that is any new development, any new commercial or higher density residential development is restricted to the corridor, and the rest of the community stays the same. And that, for as long as I've been involved, the rest of the community has stayed the same. We haven't changed really any ordinances there. It's always been right along the corridor, which to me, makes the most sense. That's where the travel is. That's where everyone expects it to be. And what people don't expect to have is you know, low-density housing right on the highway. You know, it's so I think following a plan is really the vision. So. And that plan will change. It'll change every 10 years. So.
Thank you.
So I'm just reading this from our script. Do you hold any roles that could place you in a position with a conflict of interest, such as financial, familial relationships, or groups engaged in community matters as a planning commission member? Do you have any conflicts of interest?
No. I own 2 pieces of property, so both residential.
All right, and before we end the interview, do you have any questions for us, or is there anything you would like to add?
Well, I'd just like to say that, you know, again, I'm excited at the fact there are 3 applicants. You know, for all the years that we struggled to get applicants into commissions, it's been a trend we've had, you know, for the last several years is to have multiple applicants. So that's great. I mean, I like the desire. And that is my desire is I want to still give to the community, and one of the ways that I can give the community is being on a commission and offering what knowledge and advice and wisdom that I have. So, or I've earned over 30 years. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Next we have Mr. Downey.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Downey.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Evening. Like I said, we'll go down the line. We've just got a series of questions we'll run through. Comfortable. Just answer as it comes to you. First and foremost, why are you interested in becoming a commission member for East Bethel?
Well, I'd like to serve the community, and when I saw that there was a vacancy available at the city level, I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring and see what I could offer. We moved here in 2017, my family and I, and I'd like to see if there's something I can offer that would really help out.
Thanks. So what strengths and abilities would you bring to the Planning Commission?
I enjoy working with teams. I find that they're a good way to come to big decisions. Everybody brings something to each table, and being open-minded and willing to try new things is going to help kind of come to a satisfactory conclusion, things like that. At times, I do let emotion get to me, but I've learned some breathing techniques to help me deal with those, and I think it's been really helpful. It's a challenge that I face every day, but I think I'm getting much better at it.
Great.
As a planning commission member, what do you believe your role is as representative of the city?
Well, I would work with the rest of the planning commission to decide on recommendations that would be of benefit to the city, that would help it move forward and grow, and satisfy the people that are in it. So I think being at the table, we're making decisions based on those outcomes is going to be the objective of working with the Planning Commission.
What is your vision for the Highway 65 corridor?
0 accidents. I don't know what to project for that. I've heard talk of an overpass. I've been with the East Bethel Fire Department, and we've had a call or two to that location from time to time. So as far as how to go about making it an accident-free stretch of roadway, I don't know if that is possible. But to minimize it, I would trust precedent. I'm sure this isn't the only stretch of highway that has had this kind of behavior. And so looking at other roadways that might have had similar circumstances, and then looking at the actions that were taken there, I think would be a good idea as far as how to move forward with Highway 65.
Do you think we can clarify the question?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
where we were going with that, in addition to the roads itself, when we talk about the corridor being the Highway 65 area and how it develops as it runs through our city, what would your vision be to what that would look like in your impression?
Not the traffic in the roadway, but the
But the
The
like
development,
like the buildings and residential or commercial.
or otherwise, if that's your vision too.
Bringing businesses that stick around, I think, is a plus. I think that a grocery store would be an excellent recommendation for this area to continue to develop. As far as multifamily dwellings are concerned, or more convenience stores, or restaurants, things of that sort, I'm not well educated in that kind of city planning. I just think that living here, having some businesses that are going to attract not only, you know, the outlying communities, but also East Bethel for their business, I think would be a wise way to approach. See who can fill those spots. So.
Thank you.
Do you hold any roles that could place you in a position with a conflict of interest, such as financial, family relationships, or groups engaged in community matters? As a planning commission member, do you have any conflicts of interest?
I don't think I have conflicts of interest. People might see that I am with the fire department and consider that a conflict of interest. But I don't think that there is a conflict of interest. Development of the city, I think, is what the planning commission is all about, and that's where I really hope to assist, should the position be offered.
Great. And lastly, before we end the interview, do you have any questions of us, or is there anything you'd like to add, or a closing statement?
As far as your condition outside of these walls, do you find that you take this with you in your everyday comings and goings, or is it something that you're able to leave at the city level and go about the rest of your day-to-day obligations without mental anguish or anything like that? Do you find it's easy to leave it here, or do you find that you bring this everywhere you go? And that's open to anyone.
Well, I'm happy to answer from my position anyway, or at least from my perspective in my tenure in time here on the planning commission. I think it's something that definitely stays with you. I think as someone in an advisory role, right? I think we're always thinking about the things we have going on in our daily lives. So, obviously, as I drive through the city or as I spend time in the vehicle, am I thinking about what's gone on, how it's gone on? I have to say, absolutely, I do. Is it something that stays with me to the point that it may ruin my day or make my day? I can't say that would absolutely, but I like to think that based on the conversations we have, the different points of view, it's actually helped me grow as an individual. Helps me see perspective I don't always get to see from my own observations, whether I agree or disagree. I try to think about those things individually, but that's me as a person and my own personal growth. But again, I don't think it rules my world by any means, but I know from a similar position, I once sat on that side of the podium doing the same or similar interview and thinking about the fact that I do want to better my community. I had something to offer and I wanted to put that foot forward. So that was my perspective and how I've conducted myself, I think, moving forward.
I think that's a great question. If you're stepping up to a role and you need to know if it's going to be a burden or not a burden. As for me, it's not a burden, but it does kind of flow into my daily life. I'm a little bit public where we have a farm stand on 65, and so people talk with us about planning commission things, just the general public. Maybe as a firefighter, that might be the same with you too now. Your fellow firefighters might be asking you about planning commission things now that they know you are on it.
I would say that it depends on the issue in front of us. Like, I won't be going home wondering about the septic variance or anything, but there are some issues that are more impactful that I don't, it's not a burden in that sense, but I do think about them, and, you know, before and after, you know, what do I think is best for the city? What position should I take in considering this? What might be useful information to talk about? But another thing that does stick with me, like I just joked about that septic one, but as being here a long time, the memory of something like that might come back when we're having a similar issue. So I hadn't thought of it all that time, but then we're dealing with another issue that's like it, and then I can remember, you know, parts of what was important about the decision made in the past. But in terms of any burden, no, just learning more and having a wider knowledge base.
Your paintings become a lot darker after you leave.
I would say, I think it varies based on personality and your own personal goals in coming here. Me, for instance, my story is somewhat like yours. I moved here 2018 and decided the same thing. This is where I want to be, and I want to engage the community. I want to be a part of this. Also, having been starting a family of my own, my time there is very valuable. So I don't find myself making it to the city council meetings or even some of the other events, but what I do find is that I very much give everything I have when I'm here leading up to these meetings. And as far as taking these things home, I think it's going to be far less of an impact than your time serving as a firefighter. You're not going to go home and dream about these meetings. So I've got sometimes, yes, but
From your perspective.
From my perspective, there's some good stories. But my father-in-law is a firefighter for Ham Lake, and I mean, I won't even, he wouldn't even blush at some of the things I tell him. So I don't think you have to worry too much about that.
And I guess I share a lot with my colleagues here. I guess from my perspective, I am the newest member. So in the last 8 or 9 months, there's been a lot of research, catching up with the comprehensive plan, trying to understand ordinance, talking to residents. Like I find myself meeting with residents, like they call me. Sometimes they just send me a text. And so I know that a lot of them get the same. Like, we have a diverse community, and people feel comfortable with each other, and I think diversity up here is good, because then the residents have people that they can talk to, and if they don't show up for comment, then we can kind of express those thoughts. Like, we don't have to say anything about them, because a lot of people are kind of not secretive, but they just don't want they don't want to be public with what they have to say. And so, advocating for residents is a big thing. And so, like, if you want to do that, this is probably a really good place for you.
Thank you. Thank you for your application. Good evening, Mr. Jorgens. Thank you for making it tonight.
Yeah,
I'll
pretty
have you at the
excited.
podium one more over. You don't get to sit there quite yet.
Getting ahead of yourself.
You got a 66% chance, but we got to get to there first, and we don't make that call. No.
As Aaron told you guys, I was scrambling to get here, so I
No worries.
still catching my breath. That was kind of nice to take a break, actually. So
No worries. Again, appreciate the application. As with the counterparts that interviewed tonight, we'll just go through a handful
Sure.
of the same questions we have. I'll just go right to left here
Okay.
around the horn and give you a chance to answer each question. So with that, why are you interested in becoming a commission member or of the planning commission for the city of East Bethel?
I like the city. We moved up here. We built our retirement home, I call it. My girlfriend had the lot since '98, but we built in '16, and I really like it. And I've been interested in this stuff due to my work history for years and years and understand it. And I thought I could really be a good resource. I think that's the biggest thing that I think that if I don't try and do stuff like this, I'm kind of probably doing a disservice. So I'm super interested.
Great.
So what are your strengths and abilities would you bring to the planning commission?
I think the knowledge of what you guys do, because again, my career, that I think your jobs are super hard. You make a lot of tough decisions. You know, when a city's growing, you got people that have lived here for 40, 50 plus years or more, and then you have the new development. Some people don't want it. I think it's hard. You have a lot of choices to make, and you got to blend it. And you want to keep, you know, your roads, parks are super important. You know, the infrastructure. There's so much to it, and to keep everybody happy is hard. And you answer to a lot of people. So I think that my strengths are knowing my history. You know, with 34 years in public works and 3 years with an engineering firm, and I've seen a lot of good and bad, and development, and I think that's my truly biggest strength. A weakness, being in front. I'm kind of nervous to see. You know, this is new to me. I know that I want to get better at it. Even in my job, they want me doing more presentations, and I've done a few, and that'll be, I think that's a weakness for me. But
As a planning commission member, what do you believe your role is as representative of the city?
I think the biggest thing is to make good, solid decisions that are good for everyone, for the whole community, to develop the property. I mean, obviously, many of your recommendations are basically go right through council. I mean, sometimes not always, you know, but you have to look at so much from the comp plans to how they're zoned, what the long term is, and I think that's super important.
Great.
What is your vision for the Highway 65 corridor?
Oh, that's a good one.
Like,
So about I don't know, maybe it was more than that, 5 years ago, I seen an ad in the paper for Highway 65 Traffic Committee, and I said, I think I'm going to apply. So I got on it because I felt like you can't really complain if you don't make an effort to participate, right? Well, when you learn a lot, and it was really, really interesting to go through that. So we had all our meetings in Blaine over about a 3-year period, and all that construction that's going to be taken over the next 4 years, right? I think fall of '28 they're going to finish. And a lot of changes are hard. I know, like the J-turns. So one of my employees, when I was still supervisor, lived off of Coon Lake, and he came down Viking. And when that J-turn put in, he kind of blew a gasket, you know. And I said, listen, I thought those things were pretty crazy too, but I learned on that Highway 65, committee that traffic used to wait up to 4.5 minutes to turn left to go south.
Oh.
And with the J-turn, it drops to 1.5.
Mhm.
And then after he had drove it for months, he's like, wow, that worked. So I learned a lot on that about J-turns, underpasses, all that. And it's a freeway. It truly is. And I think we're going to have to continue to address those things with service roads, entrances, things like that.
And maybe just for a little bit more elaboration, beyond the road itself, the
Yep.
corridor as far as the vision for the development beyond just the road itself.
Yeah, we're progressing. I mean, we're gonna have more industry, business, and they're all gonna have to have good access in and out, and the people. So I see business along 65, especially with treated water and, all of that. So I see development, and I hope to see that with realistically, industrial and stuff help our taxes, having commercial and industrial. And so you want to have that stuff, and getting it put in proper places is important. So you don't want them opening up and closing in a year, and then you got a vacant box. So,
Absolutely.
but I see some of that along 65.
Thank you.
So reading from the list, do you hold any roles that could place you in a position with a conflict of interest?
Possibly, the only thing I would say, because I work for SH Engineering, I don't know how that would, I don't know for sure, if that would do something or not. I guess I would obviously withhold myself. Well, I kinda chuckled when Tony Hennon was in here. I haven't seen him in probably 15+ years, but I went to high school with him. So, things like that, obviously you bring up, you say, maybe you have to not vote on Tony Hennon's project. So, that was, I guess that would be the only thing, is if you knew somebody like that, or somehow with my job.
The city of East Bethel doesn't utilize the engineering services or contract services of SEH at this point,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean
Right.
that they
Yeah.
couldn't
They
submit
couldn't in the future.
a request down the road or something,
Yeah.
but not uncommon.
Yeah.
If it's identified, he can certainly identify that potential conflict. You guys can decide and take appropriate
Yeah, and I
action.
would.
Yeah, and
Obviously,
we've had
that's-
members that have recused from
You have
from
to,
certain
yeah,
certain
you
things
have
as a
to,
result,
yeah.
so.
So that's,
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that.
Fantastic. Well, moving on to the last question here, before we end the interview, do you have any questions for us, or is there anything you'd like to add as a closing statement?
I really kind of understand your jobs. I know what you do. I've been, a part of, helping comp plans and design and support and try to follow those long plans in my job history. And so I guess just so you knew, my job history meant a lot to me, that, I was in public service for 34 years in public works. And so I did everything from snow plowing to, my last title was water and sewer superintendent at Coon Rapids. And I was water and sewer supervisor at Fridley, but I moved up from when I started. So, so I seen everything from, rehab of towers to, road rehab to, it's just all of that public service work, park work, yeah, I loved when they redid our park over there, put the paths. My girlfriend walks that all the time, and went to the meeting, that would interest me. And then it was pretty neat for me so I retired, and I hit my pension and I retired. Didn't know what I was gonna do, and I made it 4 days. And this firm called me to work in basically the water side. That's mostly what I do. I do construction inspection and plant design of water treatment plants. But I also help with water towers. I help with telecom. That's such a big deal with telecom and protective coatings. So I help with that. And, now I've been on the other side of the engineering side. That was one thing that I really was shocked, that when I worked for cities, we didn't use one engineering firm. Every project, we pretty much RPs for everybody. And so I worked with 13, 14 firms. And of course I had my favorites, and some are better at different things. And I was kind of surprised when I went to the private side at how many cities hire a firm and that's it. That's their firm. And they use them for 50 years, and it's just surprising to me. I didn't know that places worked like that, and I don't know if it's the best or not, but I think that all of that stuff would really help me, make decisions and, be open-minded. I really understand all the things you have to consider when you make a decision. You're not making a decision just because your friend wants it or this business wants it. You're making it for many, and you got to comply to so many rules with all the EPA and DNR, and there's so many regulations to boot, and you're making them happy. You're making the council happy. You're making hopefully all the residents happy. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, so it interests me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, thank you again for your application.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. You have a seat.
All right, so members of the planning commission, you have the lovely task of making a recommendation. Your recommendation can be 1, can be 2. On top of that recommendation, or could be none if that is your decision. But on top of that, then you have to assign potential terms, and one is a 11-month term, if you will, and the other is about a 3 or a 32-month term. So if you want to do that by flip of a coin, you want to watch your two candidates play paper, rock, scissors, all up to you.
I guess I would throw it out there. I think based on some of what we've done in the past in this, I think typically we've just done by ballot. I would say since we have 3 applicants, take a scratch piece, write down two out of the 3 names. If you feel that you want to recommend 2 or none, as Aaron said, all in your own opinion. I think we'll tally at the end. And my recommendation would be if one has more votes than the other of the 2 top candidates, the most vote go to the longer term.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it at the will of the council beyond that.
I was thinking exactly the same.
As long as you guys agree.
Any disagreement to that method? Again, just one man's opinion, so.
Good.
That works.
I'm just want to say that I will recommend Corey, so I'll be voting for Corey on this. And the reason is I'm just really excited about his enthusiasm for the job. His acknowledgement of comprehensive plans and reading into them and supporting the community vision. I did like that excitement, so.
Great. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I do want to say thank you to all the candidates. I mean, we've got a really great pool this year.
Absolutely, yes.
And
And for
it's-
anyone listening, please, when this stuff comes up, whether it's planning, parks, EDA, city council, city engagement is always appreciated.
This is a pretty good pool of candidates, which isn't always the case, but,
Especially
so it
when
makes
you
it harder
apply.
for us. But fortunately, we also have 2 openings instead of just 1.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I will take the
2 there.
resumes and question and answer. I'll collect all
Oh, yes,
that
that
stuff,
will all have to be recollected too at the end.
since we have non-public data on there.
You want me to fold those, I'll hand them down, or?
I'll let you collect those right
Okay.
there.
Joe?
Yep, 1 second. I also want to thank the candidates for coming. I know that this can be kind of a stressful thing to show up and speak in public, especially to, let your personal self out and say all that. So I really appreciate everyone showing up, and I thought you guys were all very strong.
Did you say the resumes need to be?
Yep,
turned-
resumes and the question answer.
Sure, I have that right here. Yep, okay, thank you. All right. With the most in favor votes for the term running through January 31st, it is the Planning Commission's recommendation to the City Council, Steve Voss, again for the term ending at January 31st, 2027, and Corey Jorgensen for the term ending January 31st of 2025. Is there a second to that? I think we need to motion that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is my motion. If there is a second based on the results.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of that moving forward to City Council, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None?
Second was who? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sharon. And that will go also the 12th of February.
That's correct.
So for the candidates who are all here, or applicants, I'm sorry, who all interviewed, this will go back before City Council for their final approval. Yeah, I'm assuming a semi-similar interview process, should they choose to go through it, or just take
Nope,
it?
it'll just be your recommendation to the council. The council can choose to accept the recommendation, modify the recommendation, or deny the recommendation.
Certainly,
So if
okay.
they wanted to switch the terms, it's totally up to them.
They can. Yep,
It's true.
Fine.
And then, ultimately, right, there's one of the terms that's only a one-year term, so Brian, don't be discouraged. In 11 months, you can apply again. And there'll be another term or two that are also up for
Yes, one of these is a partial term.
partial term as well. So there'll
Yep.
be multiple openings coming within the next year as well.
Yep, and typically that is, for anybody who's listening, that's how this body works with the 7 members that we have. Every year, there's always 1 or 2 positions that come up for reinstatement, and obviously if you're already on, you're welcome to put your hat back in. If there's other applicants for those openings, and the council should choose to open it and not accept that renewal offer, they can make that decision at that time.
And I just want to say, Brian, thank you very much for your public service as a firefighter, and thanks for even offering more of your time and commitment to our city.
Yes, well said, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would second that. I really admire what you do. Again, as my father-in-law's on the, firefighter team in Ham Lake, that's very admirable, so thank you.
Great. Next agenda item 7, council updates. We have a new liaison, Councilmember Smith.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Jim Smith, East Bethel City Council. Last night at our meeting, we had a presentation from Karen Skepper, Anoka County Director of Community and Government Relations. She spoke a lot about rentals for seniors and stuff like that, and how rent has gone crazy. Homeownership, a lot of seniors want to get out of what they have because like stairways and stuff like that, and they want to downgrade. She said there's programs out there to help them, which is cool. And then she had a good presentation. She had like 25 slides. So I'd encourage you to watch the meeting if you can. You can pick up on more information on that. She did say on Anoka County, we are the least on the medium price on housing at $378,000, which is, to me, it's pretty high. But I mean, everywhere else is $400,000 plus. So I guess that's a good thing. And then the preliminary plat for Capstone did not pass. We have questions on that we need answers, but we did make a motion to reconsider that after we get the questions answered. Also, the final plat for Strandland Farm, Carrington Development was approved. That's all I got.
Can I just, my own curiosity, since I didn't have a chance to watch the full meeting last night, what further questions might be needed on that for Capstone?
We have a lot of questions that were not answered
Such
all
as?
along, such as just on cul-de-sacs, for an example. Plus a lot of the zoning and stuff that we did ask questions before and we didn't get the answers. So we're gonna get the answers before we make a decision on that.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd encourage you to watch the meeting though, it was really good. Mr. Miller put on a good presentation, it really made sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Before adjournment, I'd just like to make a reminder, as this comes up every year after the January meeting, at the next commission meeting, there will be voting for the chair chair position. So again, please keep that in mind at the next meeting. For those who would qualify that may want to, be prepared to be asked. Like I said, I know I've been up here a couple of terms now. Again, I try not to stay in the same seat if I don't have to, but again, if it's the will of the body, I will. I think Sharon's been sitting in the vice spot for a while. I think she might be ready or finally ready to put her hat in the ring.
Yeah,
So
I think
hopefully
so,
that would be my recommendation, but just again, wanted to put that out there for food for thought, so it's not a surprise at the next meeting. So. Other than that, unless there's any other business, I would motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for your time.